Okay, we are on the record. This is ERD case number CR2020-02639. The complainant is Henry Marquardt. The respondent is Televere Systems, LLC. I'm Administrative Law Judge Stephanie Brown. It is Friday, February 18th, 2022 at approximately 9:35 a.m. We are here for a hearing on the merits of the complaint, which follows from a discrimination complaint that Mr. Marquardt filed against the respondent with the Equal Rights Division on February 9th of 2020, alleging discrimination on the basis of conviction record. And then following an investigation on January 27th of 2021, an investigator issued an initial determination finding that there is probable cause to believe that the respondent may have violated the Wisconsin Fair Employment Law by refusing to hire or employ the complainant because of conviction record. Based on that initial determination, the case was certified to a hearing on the merits of the complaint, which is, again, why we're here today. And the issue that will be decided after I hear evidence today is whether or not Mr. Marquardt has shown by the evidence that the respondent refused to employ or hire him because of his conviction record. Are you still there, Mr. Marquardt? Okay.
Yes.
Yep, I lost your video again for a few seconds, so I just wanted to make sure you could still see us. So I just want to explain the process a little bit here today. Because it is Mr. Marquardt's burden of proof, we'll begin with his testimony. I will start by asking him some general questions about his discrimination complaint. But Mr. Marquardt, when I'm done asking questions, you'll have an opportunity to present any additional evidence. When you are done answering my questions and presenting any additional evidence you may want, the respondent will have an opportunity to ask you questions. When you are done presenting your evidence, I'll turn it over to the respondent. I'll again start by asking Mr. Stoffaker some questions and then turn it over to him to share any additional information he wants to share. And then Mr. Marquardt, if there's any questions you want to ask him, Mr. Stoffaker, you'll have an opportunity to do that. And then depending on what evidence comes out, Ms. Griffin may testify depending on if the respondent believes that her testimony is necessary for anything. Mr. Marquardt, do you understand the process here this morning?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Stoffaker, do you understand the process here this morning?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And I just want to be clear, you are representing the respondent here today, is that correct?
That's correct.
And am I pronouncing it correctly? Is it Televere or is it Televere? How do you say the respondent's name?
Televere Systems.
Televere Systems. Okay. So then, Mr. Marquardt, I will go ahead and start with your testimony. If you could raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. And for the repeat your name and spell your name as well.
Henry Marquardt, Marquardt.
All right. And do you still currently reside at 7525 Meyer Hill Lane in, is it Lena, Wisconsin, 54139?
That is correct.
All right. And I guess I'll start just by asking you about your conviction record. Since you did allege discrimination on the basis of conviction record, I guess my first question is, do you have a conviction record?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And what is on your conviction record?
Number one in question is in 1991, I pled no contest for lewdness with a minor. I was sentenced to 16 years in prison. I served 10 of those, and it's been like 20 years since I've been out. I'm sorry, Your Honor, go ahead.
No, I missed a couple things that you had said there. Your sound was going in and out. I heard that, I believe in 1991, you said you pled no contest for lewdness with a minor?
That is correct.
And then I didn't hear, I believe you said you served 10 years in prison?
Correct.
And were you sentenced for more than that? That's the part I didn't hear.
I was sentenced for 16 years, but with good time, I served 10.
And was there anything after you served the 10 years in prison? Did I miss something there as well?
It's been like over 20 years since I've been out, but I must also register as a sex offender.
Okay. Is that the only thing that's on your conviction record?
I do have a sex offender registry back in approximately 10 years ago that I failed to register when I came back to Wisconsin. I came back to Wisconsin for about 3 weeks, and I didn't realize there was a law in Wisconsin. If you're here for more than 10 days, you have to verify them that you're here.
So those are the only two offenses that are on your conviction record?
Correct.
Okay. At some point, did you seek employment with Televere Systems?
That is correct, I did.
When did you seek employment?
It was July of 2020.
Okay.
I seen an ad on Indeed.com. And then on July 20th, I received a message from Indeed, from Eric C. or Eric S666 at ZWY. And I'm not sure if that's Eric, Mr. Schufker there. And they advised me that they were interested in interviewing me.
Could you repeat the email handle that you received the message from?
It was Eric ERICS 666 dash ZWY at Indeedmail.com.
Indeedmail.com?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the message that you received, the text of the message?
That he was interested in doing an interview with me.
Was there any kind of time or anything like that set up for the interview?
No, just he was interested in interviewing me, and then also we need to take some basic technical support tests. And then I responded back to or to that email on the 22nd, disclosing my past convictions since there's been an issue with me seeking or gaining an employment. And once I sent that to Televere Systems, 7 minutes later, I received a message back that says that they would no longer continue with the process and no longer pursue my application.
What position was it that you had initially applied for?
Like a help desk support, IT.
Do you have experience with help desk support?
Yes, I have vast amount of experience with the help desk support.
Could you explain to me what your experience is?
I have over 20 years experience doing on-site mobile computer repair. I work for multiple companies. I also have my own company doing computer repair. That's been in Las Vegas, Nevada, and also in Lena, Wisconsin.
Did you know what the rate of pay would have been for the position that you applied for?
Approximately, I knew what the pay rate was for like help desk support.
You don't know?
No, I knew approximately what the wage was for help desk support. Wisconsin.
What is that?
Well, with Televere, their average rate is 52,000 plus.
Was that in the ad, or how did you get that number?
Yeah, through Glassdoor.com.
Glassdoor.com?
Correct. There's also a employment site for seeking employment.
And what does what kind of information do you appears on Glassdoor.com?
Tell me like what kind of company, how big they are, and also about what kind of what they offer as far as for like benefits and the pay rate for different positions.
So when did you look at that website, Glassdoor.com?
I periodically look at it all the time just to see where the average salaries are for different positions within the IT field.
Okay. And do you know what the job duties would have been for the help desk position at Televere? Like, what would you have been doing?
Basically, any support on any of the computer systems, deployment of systems, could be updates to systems, just general questions that the end user has in regards to how they may go about doing something on a computer. I mean, for Televere, I don't know exactly what their responses or what their responsibilities are for help desk support. We didn't get that far in the process.
Right. It sounds like, if I'm understanding your testimony correctly, you applied through Indeed and then
Correct.
got the email back saying that they were interested in an interview. You needed to take the
Correct.
computer technical support test.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever take those tests?
No, I did not. I sat down. The day I was ready to take the assessment test, I reached back out to Televere to explain my past conviction to see if that would be a problem with employing me. And then, like I mentioned earlier, 7 minutes later, I received a response back that they wouldn't be interested in me no more.
Okay. So that's as far as it went then, correct?
Correct. Once he went ahead and discriminated against me, I didn't go pursue any further. I didn't take some tests after that. Stopped. There'd be no sense of doing that.
All right. You said you applied for this position in July of 2020. It sounds like sometime around July 20th or so, because that's when you said you received the message showing an
Correct.
interest. Have you
Correct.
worked anywhere since July of 2020?
In July of 2020, let's see, I worked for Assyrian. So I was released from Assyrian, which is this contract was Verizon, and that was May of 2020, May 29th.
What was the name of that company again?
Assyrian,
Do you know how to spell that?
ASURION, and they're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I worked for the Verizon campaign.
Okay. And you said you last worked for them in May of 2020?
Correct. With the pandemic, a lot of positions are changed once the pandemic hit, and I was one that was affected by it.
Sure. After that, did you work anywhere else?
I have not, Your Honor.
So you have not worked since May of 2020?
Correct.
Did you receive any unemployment insurance benefits at all since May of 2020?
Yes, I have.
Do you know the amount of those benefits that you've received?
$370 a week, or every week, $370.
And how long, for what period of time did you receive benefits?
I received them up until September of last year.
So from May of 2020 to September of 2021?
Correct. That's when everything was the pandemic. They stopped it all.
Did you ever get an increase beyond $370 a week due to the pandemic?
Yes, they did offer another $300.
Do you recall what period of time they were offering the additional funds?
I'm checking it right now, Your Honor. I believe it ended in September of last year. 1 year. I know I received it for at least 1 year.
Okay.
And that was called something with the pandemic. I forgot what it was exactly, the title of it was.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact title either, but I know that there was some additional funds that were given to some individuals. Have you received any other sources of income since May of 2020 besides unemployment benefits? No?
No, I'm not, Your Honor.
All right. Is there anything else, Mr. Marquardt, you want to share with me about your discrimination complaint?
Not at the moment, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Stoffaker, do you have any questions for Mr. Marquardt?
I do not have any questions for Mr. Marquardt.
All right. Then, Mr. Marquardt, is there any other evidence you want to present, or are you planning on resting your case at this point?
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Stoffaker, I believed at the initial or the final pre-hearing, I should say, last week, we were going to start with your testimony first. Is that still the plan?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so if you could raise your right hand, Mr. Stoffaker, do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's right.
All right, you can put your hand down. And could you state your name and spell it for me, please, for the record?
My name is Eric Stoffaker. Last name is spelled Stauffacher.
And where are you currently employed, Mr. Stoffaker?
I'm employed with Televere Systems.
Okay. And what's your position?
I've got a few positions, a manager, programmer, maintenance guy. I kind of wear a lot of hats here.
Can you tell me what kind of business is Televere Systems?
Sure. We write and support digital X-ray software.
And how long have you been with the company?
Um, 11 or 12 years or so.
Okay. And have you always had kind of like those multiple hats since you started there?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. You heard Mr. Marquardt's testimony. Was Televere looking for some type of technical support or position, I guess? Was that type of position open in July of 2020?
Yes, it was.
And was it, he said it was specifically a help desk support. Was that the position that was available?
Yeah, kind of technical support for the digital X-ray software that we write.
So what would the position, like the duties of the position have been?
Take phone calls from customers, answer questions, help resolve issues related to that software.
And what would the individual have been paid in that position?
Depends on experience, schooling, um, but typically it's somewhere between 15 and $22 an hour, somewhere in that range. Just really depends.
And is it a full-time position, meaning 40 hours a week?
Yes,
Any opportunity for overtime at all?
no,
Okay.
very, very seldom, I should say. I mean,
Okay.
really, really rare.
Were there any other benefits that the person would have received? Any kind of like health insurance or anything like that? 401k?
Yeah, we offer 401k, no health insurance, and some vacation time.
And do you recall Mr. Marquardt applying for the position around July 20th of 2020?
I do, yes.
And Mr. Marquardt said that he received a response from Eric S666 dash, I think I had zyw.indeedmail.com. Is that your email?
Yeah, I think that's just an email address that Indeed like creates automatically for you when you reply to candidate messages.
But that was that was you responding to Mr. Marquardt. Is that
Yes,
correct?
right.
Okay. And he said that you replied to him that you were interested in interviewing him and that he needed to take some type of computer or technical assessment test. I know you have some exhibits. I probably should have mentioned that as well. If at any point you want me to refer to some exhibits, let me know that, Mr. Stoffaker, and I can share them on the screen.
Okay,
Was Mr. Marquardt's testimony accurate about like the email communications between you and him?
sort of. So he had applied on it was a Sunday on the 19th. That is For reference, that's R4.
Okay,
The
let me bring
document
that up.
R4. This
Let me
actually
see.
shows the whole email chain.
Okay, so that should be on the screen right now. Let me just kind of fix it on my end here. Do you see R4 on the screen?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so it looks like up here it says applied July 19th, 2020. And then the you would be you, I'm assuming, on July 20th, this first email. We are interested in giving you an interview. However, we will need you to take the Indeed test for technical support, as well as basic computer skills -PC. Once you have completed those tests, I will get notified and am willing to set up a phone interview with you. So that's your initial response after getting his application?
Yep, yep. So he applied on that Sunday. Uh, you'll notice I replied immediately as soon as I got in Monday morning that basically saying that I reviewed the resume and he looks to be qualified or probably qualified for the job, but we always require these assessments be done. Um, they're like little tests that Indeed has created to um, potentially show us, the employer, uh, maybe some of their skill set or what they could be qualified for. So without the assessments being done, we can't fully assess the candidate's resume and application. So we never give an interview without the assessments being done. And then to your question specifically, there was another email that wasn't referenced in Mr. Marquardt's testimony, and it was on that Tuesday, the 21st.
Okay.
And then he sent another email on the 22nd, which was just a copy of the first email. And then I replied after the second email.
Why didn't you reply after the first email?
I was giving Mr. Marquardt a chance to actually reply to my email with an acknowledgement that he would do the assessments or he understands that he has to take the assessments. Um, that was a detail lost in his reply. So I basically ignored the first email because it has nothing to do with the application at all, or it doesn't acknowledge my email where I said that he had to take the tests.
So if I'm understanding your testimony correctly, you didn't respond to the email he sent on July 31st because you were waiting to see if he would take those tests first.
Right. I was waiting to see if he would actually acknowledge my email.
Oh, so
What
you
I
weren't
should say said in my email. Sorry. Go ahead.
okay. No, that's fine. That's a good clarification to make. So you were, even if he wouldn't have taken the test, if he would have said to you, I plan on taking the test, or that would have been sufficient for you?
Yeah, that would have given him a little bit more time. Typically, if I send an email out to a candidate and I say, hey, we'd like to set up a phone interview, but you got to take these tests, we give them a few days to get the test done. Unless they say something like, I can't take the test right now, but I can take it maybe next week. We would give them a little bit more time. Um, but in this case, the tests were just ignored completely.
All right. And then because Mr. Marquardt by the 22nd did not acknowledge either that he was going to take the test or that he had already taken the test, I think I'm understanding your testimony to be that's why on the 22nd you responded the way you did?
Correct. Right. One, he didn't take the tests, and number two, he didn't acknowledge that he was going to take the tests. Um, so it was clear that he really didn't seem to have the intention on taking those tests, and he didn't actually have the intention on replying that he would take those tests. So, I just immediately sent him the reply email, which was a very usual thing for us to give acknowledgement right away to our candidates that, immediately we're ready to do an interview, or you're we're no longer pursuing the application.
Was someone eventually hired for the position?
There was one, yes.
And who was that individual?
It was one of the other candidates in Indeed. Um, that person is not in any reference to any of the documents that we have up here.
Okay, because I did recall seeing that you had some information from some applicants, it looked like, but none of those individuals were hired.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, there are three other candidates in question. I left out the first name. I'm not sure if that was required or not, but the names are Williams, Hampton, and Van Buskirk. I chose these three applications specifically just to show that these people applied. They got the same email that Mr. Marquardt got that said you need to complete the assessments, and it looks like we have somebody that did complete the assessments and got an interview, and then somebody who said that they would complete the assessments, ended up not completing the assessments, and never did get an interview.
Why don't we go through that? I think the first one is Exhibit 6. Let me just see here. This looks to be an email between you and the Williams candidate. Is this correct?
Correct.
And so this would be an example of what? You sent out the email showing your interest on July 17th, and then Williams responded. Well, actually, did Williams respond, or did you respond again?
So in this particular case, give me 1 second. Let me review my notes real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so this R6 exhibit, along with R7 and R8, they all kind of go together. They show a couple of things. Number one, they show that I sent the exact same email, or extremely close to the same email that I sent Mr. Marquardt. Number two, it shows that Williams did complete his assessments. So R7 will show that he did complete the assessment tests. And then also on top of that, something else that it shows is the timeliness of responses. So if you look at R8, sorry if I'm cycling through these quickly, but
You're
in
fine.
R8 towards the bottom, it has a timestamp of when those assessments were completed. And it,
Okay.
on Friday the 17th at 1:52 p.m. And then when we go back to R6, you can see that I replied on the 17th within, I think that's 15 minutes, saying that we want to set up an interview.
Okay. That's the
So it
second
shows,
email you're referring to, the one at 2:08 p.m.?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like Williams, the candidate Williams, replied to my first email, but he obviously saw that and took the tests fairly quickly. And then I replied as soon as I got a notification that he took the assessments. So it's not unusual that I send a very quick reply back to one of these candidates.
Okay. And so after an assessment, after a candidate completes the assessments, then you get some kind of notification showing that they took the assessments?
Right. I get a notification via email and through the Indeed app that just says, yes, whoever it was completed an assessment or completed the assessments completely. And then at that point, I just go straight into the assessment and I review it. If the results are what we're looking for, then I would just send an email to set up an interview.
Okay. And that's what you did with Williams, it looks like.
Correct.
And then the next one I think in your list is Van Buskirk. I think that starts with Exhibit 9 maybe. Let me just get there. So this looks to be an email, like the start of the email chains with Van Buskirk, Exhibit 9. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, sorry about this screenshot. It wasn't a great screenshot, but really this exhibit is showing Van Buskirk candidate had a good resume, so we sent the email that they needed to complete the assessments because this person also did not complete the assessment. And you'll notice that she did reply that she'll get them done ASAP as soon as possible. Um, she ended up not doing the assessments, which is shown in, I believe it's R10.
Okay.
Yeah, so the exhibit R10 will show that Van Buskirk actually didn't do the assessments, in which case we never did set up an interview for this person.
Now, let me just double check here. So how long do you wait to see if they complete the assessment? Because it looks like the email, she initially applied on July 20th. She said on July 21st, she'll get them done. This incomplete assessment, it looks like it was sent on July 20th. Is there something else down? I guess how long do you wait to see if they complete the assessments?
Yeah, so that depends. If I sent the email and they replied right away, I would give them a couple of days to complete it. If they didn't reply right away, we basically assume that they maybe didn't see the email. There is a possibility that I would send another email after maybe 2 days or maybe the next day. But if they do reply that they will get them done or they have a time period that they could get them done, we're flexible on that amount of time. But if somebody says, something along the lines that I'll get them done as soon as I can, and they reply immediately, typically we give them, about 2 days to get it done. Anything more than that, it just feels like procrastination. If somebody doesn't reply, like I said, we'll give them another email maybe, or we'll just leave it alone and see if they ever do reply by the end of the hiring process. But it's if somebody does acknowledge that they do have to take the tests, we'll give them a couple of 2 or 3 days to complete those tests.
Okay. And then I think the last one you said here was Hampton, so that would be exhibits 11 and 12. This looks to be like that page timestamp. So it looks like here, if I'm reading exhibit 11 correctly, candidate Hampton completed the assessments on July 19th of 2020.
Correct. Let's see. So yeah, he completed his assessments July 19th, 2000, or at 2:21 p.m. I think. Yeah, so the 19th was a Sunday. And then that Monday morning, because he had done the assessments already, I didn't have to send him an email that said you have to take the assessments, but it just goes straight into setting up a time for an interview.
case, the candidate Hampton, he submitted his application and immediately completed the assessments before you could even ask him to complete them?
Correct. Yeah. So this also shows that through Indeed during the application process lets the applicant know that there are assessments that are required for the application. So Indeed gives a notification that these tests are required for consideration for the job, and then after that, I'll send an email to give another indication, just in case uh, maybe the candidate thought that maybe it wasn't actually required. But I'll send another notification that says, via email, these tests are required to get an interview.
And so this person responded, and then it looks like you set up an interview with this candidate right away.
Yep.
Or at least for that week, that Friday of that week, it looks like the interview, or at least that's what the candidate was saying would work for him.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Now, Mr. Marquardt has alleged that he wasn't hired, or at least even considered beyond just that initial application because of his conviction record. Do you keep track of individuals' conviction records or anything like that through the interview process?
No.
Do you know if anybody that works for you currently has a conviction record?
I actually don't know.
There are some additional exhibits that you had submitted that we have not talked about so far. Let me just run through those real quickly. R1, what is this?
So this is just showing that the job was posted July 8th, 2020, and that we got 39 candidates. So we've got quite a bit of candidates to go through during during this hire process.
And of those 39 candidates, how many did you actually end up interviewing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't
Okay.
look that one
All right. R2, what is this?
up. R2 is just showing that 38 candidates were rejected and one was hired.
Okay. And then R3, I believe, is Mr. Marquardt's assessments.
Yep. So R3 was showing two things. Number one, Mr. Marquardt didn't complete the assessments, and the second thing that is showing is that Indeed did send the notification that those assessments did need to be done. At the bottom, underneath the assessments, it says that they were sent on July 19th, and I believe that is when Mr. Marquardt applied for the job. If you look at R4, it shows when he applied.
Yeah, he applied July 19th.
Perfect.
Okay.
So during the application process, he was notified that the assessments did have to be done.
All right.
And that notification was done by Indeed.
All right. And then I think the only other one that we haven't covered is R5. What is this?
This was just just another um, indication that he did not complete those assessments. The overall assessment was incomplete.
It says their candidate applied outside of allowed time frame. Do you know what that means?
I actually don't know what that means. I didn't notice that until this morning. I talked to Rhea about that. I was like, what is this? And it seems as though Indeed just kind of marked everybody as outside of the time frame. So I'm not really sure if maybe I posted through Indeed incorrectly for the time that it was the job was open for or something. But yeah, that actually has no bearing on this on his decision at all. It was just I don't know where that came from.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to testify about?
Give me one moment. Let me review my notes real quick just to make sure we didn't that we've gone over everything.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, I think other than just to say that having an email reply uh, when I send an email that says we want to set up an interview and the reply ignores the requests from my interview, uh, typically that is pretty insulting, and that also does we do take that into consideration as well. Missing the details of an email and not replying to an email correctly because we do a lot of emails through this job. So that's the acknowledgement is, or the lack of acknowledgement of what was required for this position was a bit of an insult in the responses. Other than that, I think we've covered everything.
All right, Mr. Marquardt, do you have any questions for Mr. Stoffaker?
Yeah, a couple things. I noticed there's a multiple number of applicants that you had here, and why didn't you include all those other ones in this
We
matter?
felt that, yeah, we felt that the other applicants didn't really apply to this specific case.
And also, like, your email to me was pretty open-ended. I noticed in your other emails, the other individuals, you have like specific dates that you'll be doing the interview process. And mine was just like, we pretty much have to take those tests before we can go through it.
Yeah,
with
so
respect to your
everybody that,
time-
sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I
Oh,
didn't,
go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to
Go
cut you
ahead.
off. I missed the last thing you said.
As far as like with the email that was addressed to me, it's very open-ended. It's just like I have to take those tests. On the other emails, I noticed you said the other candidates, you're more specific on saying what they're going to be doing. You gave dates, these time frames, but mine was there's no dates or anything in there, so I didn't have nothing to respond to as far as for a date or anything. It's just open-ended. You have to take those tests. So in respecting your time, I did send you the email in regards to my past conviction to see if that would be a hindrance on any of the hiring process and working with the company. And when I received the response back 7 minutes later, I mean, I don't want to waste your time or my time in taking the assessments if I wasn't going to go any further.
Do you have any response, Mr. Stoffaker?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the applicants that did not complete the assessments got the same email. We'd like to set up an interview, but you have to take the assessments. Although if the candidate had already taken the assessment, then there's no need for that email, in which case we went straight into setting up a time and date for that interview.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Marquardt?
Not at the moment, Your Honor. No.
All right. Any other evidence, Mr. Stoffaker, that you'd like to offer?
I was going to bring in Rhea. I got maybe a couple of questions just to verify what I said is, how we do the interview process here,
Sure.
or the application process.
Sure, we can have her testify. Ms. Griffin, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Could you state your name and spell it for me, please?
Rhea Griffin, RHEA GRIFFIN.
And what is your current position Or I guess I should ask, where do you work, and then what is your current position?
I work at Televere Systems LLC, and my current position is the Support Center Director of Operations.
And how long have you been in that position?
It will be 12 years in May.
Is that the only position you've held with the respondent since you've worked there?
No, I started off as technical support and worked my way up to management.
All right, Mr. Stoffaker, you can go ahead and ask her your questions.
Sure, absolutely. Rhea, you were not involved in Mr. Marquardt's application, is that correct?
Did you say correct? I'm sorry.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And so that means that um, uh, you can't really say what happened exactly with this specific case. However, can you describe the process that we go through to determine whether a candidate can get an interview or not with us?
Yep. At the time in July of 2020, when we had the discussion to post on Indeed, Eric Stoffaker, was handling reviewing the applicants, and we figured the best approach to that would be he reviewed the resumes. If he felt that someone's resume was appropriate for the position, then again, the next step was to review the assessment results. Um, Once the assessment results were reviewed, that is when I got involved when actual interviews were scheduled. So I was not involved in the process until there was an interview to take place. Um, but yeah, the process is resume, assessment, and then interview.
And can a candidate obtain an interview without completing those assessments?
No.
And that's all the questions I had, Your Honor.
So if I understand you correctly, Ms. Griffin, you were involved in the interview part of the application process only, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall how many interviews you actually held for this position?
At least 10, but I couldn't say for sure. I just know that there were at least 10 to 15 that were held.
10 or 15, you said?
Yes.
And then you narrowed it down, and were you involved then in the decision to hire that individual, whoever that was hired?
Yes.
And why was that individual hired?
Well, he passed the resume experience part. The assessments were sufficient to what we were looking for, and then the interview process itself. During our interview process, we have additional questions and scenarios that we present that would be situations that you run into with the position. And the candidate nailed everything where we felt that it was a good fit for the position and the best candidate that had been interviewed out the pool.
And I asked Mr. Stoffaker about information about people's conviction record. Do you keep any of that information or have any access or know if there are individuals that are currently working for you that have a conviction record?
I do not. During my hiring process, it's not something that I inquire about. So anyone that was hired prior to me, I am unaware of their conviction status, and it is not something that I've ever inquired during my hiring process.
All right. Mr. Stoffaker, do you have any other questions for Ms. Griffin?
I did not, Your Honor.
Mr. Marquardt, do you have any questions for Ms. Griffin?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, did you, Ms. Griffin, take these assessments?
When I applied for the job, it was not via Indeed, so I did not take those specific assessments. When I applied 12 years ago, it was a different setup. Like I said, it was not electronic. I did do submit things to be eligible for the position, but I did not take the assessments via Indeed.
Okay. So anybody that's employed by Televere has gone through an assessment or testing?
Anyone
just
that
one interview
was
process?
anyone that was employed, that wasn't a candidate from Indeed, yes, took the assessment.
Let me get that straight. So anybody that was applied through Indeed took the assessment,
Correct.
and those who applied or submitted outside of Indeed did not take the assessment?
Not the Indeed assessments. No, the assessments that are sent via Indeed are created by Indeed. Those are not assessments that Televere has created. Those are assessments that Indeed creates based off of the type of job that is listed and posted. That's something that they offer to employers to try to narrow down the candidate pools that apply for the job. But so the Indeed applicants take the Indeed assessments, and anyone that we have employed via Indeed has taken the assessments via Indeed.
And how is the testing done if it's not done through Indeed?
We've required other things such as depending on where we hired or where the job was posted. We often used to get candidates and applicants from a local area technical college, so they would come in and we would require them to bring in documentation from their courses of things that they worked on, just to show skill sets that we were looking for. Again, like I stated during our interview process, we have questions that are pretty much equivalent to the questions that would be asked on Indeed, where we ask those questions. We give scenarios that, again, are similar to the assessments on Indeed, but just not the actual Indeed created assessments.
And do you have any of those available?
Yes, I'm sure that we have copies of things that were used for previous applicants.
Okay. That's it, Your Honor.
You don't have any other questions, Mr. Marquardt?
Not at the moment.
All right.
My internet went out too.
Yeah, I can still hear you, but it looks like your
Okay.
video dropped out.
Yeah, CenturyLink sent me an email saying I have problems right now in the area.
Okay.
Connect here.
So, Mr. Stoffager, do you have any other questions for Ms. Griffin at this point?
Yeah, I got one question for Rhea.
Sure.
It's kind of in reply to one of the questions Mr. Marquardt asked. We haven't always done Indeed. This was July 2020 that Mr. Marquardt applied. This was the first time that we started with Indeed, right?
Yes.
So anybody before July of 2020, we didn't have Indeed set up, and there were no tests through Indeed. So anybody who didn't apply through Indeed July 20th and beyond would have to take these tests.
Correct.
That's all I got.
All right. Do you have any other evidence you want to present, Mr. Stoffager?
Nope, that's all I've got.
Anything else, Mr. Marquardt, any evidence you want to present?
Not at the moment, I don't know.
All right. Well, if there's no other evidence, I will just note for the record that I should ask Mr. Marquardt, do you have any objections to my receiving the 12 exhibits presented by the respondent as evidence?
I would like to request other documents that they say that they submitted as far as for like assessments that they didn't do through Indeed, but through other venues.
It's too late to do that. You should have done that
Okay.
before the hearing. That's part of the discovery process. But once we get to the hearing, we're limited to what the parties actually identify and produce at the hearing. But do you have any objections to my receiving the 12 documents that we discussed with them?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so then respondents exhibits 1 through 12 are received in the record. I just want to make sure any other evidence from either party. Anything else from you, Mr. Marquardt?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from the respondent, Mr. Stoffaker?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so then I will consider your testimony from the three of you and the exhibits that were introduced. I'll be issuing a written decision. We try to get those out in the next couple months. We aim for 3 months. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that. But if anybody's contact information changes before that, please get in contact with the department so we know where to mail the decision to. And with that, I think as long as nobody else has any testimony, I'll go ahead and end the hearing. And just thank you everybody for participating in the hearing today. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.